Good morning, my fellow Facebook fans. We're taking this opportunity to sit there and streamline this momentous memorial. So get ready time to sit there and honor our fallen veterans who died by suicide. But first, I want you to know that I will be a master of ceremony is something that I'm really excited about. It's my wife. And if you know my wife, you know that's like next to one below that. So I was really excited about her being master of ceremony. I wanted you guys to understand just how awesome she is. My wife, and I met her in Plainfield, and she was a police detective for the Plainfield Police Department. She was a hostage negotiator. She also was trained to do the lie detector, which she practiced on me. She's also part of the Criminal Investigative Bureau. She was actually the first Hispanic for her department. She also was the first, there's a lot of firsts. She's also the first DARE resource officer for her area. And toward the end of her career, a 25-year career, she was the lead tech detective for Megan's Law, which is something that is used to keep track of sex offenders. And finally, domestic violence. She was the lead detective for domestic violence. And that's important to understand because that's really how, and this is how influential she is to me, because that's really how I decided to go into the mental health profession. I was part of there in Plainfield. They have a organization for civilians to be part of the first response team. It's called the Domestic Violence Response Team. I volunteered, and by me doing that, that really hit me. And I said, now I know what I want to do. Because I just, everybody will be tired. They don't have no idea what they're going to do when they get out. But that was how I decided to do that. So that's one. She was influential in me picking that career. And also, she said, when we retire, we're moving to Florida. So as you see right here, we're in Florida. And I'm now the president and CEO of Veterans Council of Veterans. So to no further ado, I want to introduce the master of ceremony, my wife, Thelma Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now stand for the National Anthem, which will be sung by Maxine Reyes. And if you look at her bio, she has an outstanding bio. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last evening, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
please.
If you all will join me and the rest of us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and justice for all. Here we come.
I want you to welcome
Almighty God, we invoke your divine presence upon our ceremony today, that to you chose to leave this world prematurely. As we commemorate all those who have served in anticipation of a Memorial Day, we especially who have served but struggled immensely as a result of service. Their loss is as pronounced as any and often leaves far too many unanswered questions, as well as the pain of agony and sorrow. Yet we acknowledge that where there is loss and grief, your divine grace can be the source of healing and strength. As your family, we call upon your grace to bring hope to the families who have suffered so much, whose grief is in need. Confident that you are the source of eternal life, we realize that the tears of this life will be wiped away with the joys of a promised eternity where all questions will be answered, and the separation from this world will be replaced with the promised reunion with those who have gone before us. Comfort our hearts now with this hope and bring consolation to all who continue to grieve the loss of their loved ones. In your holy name we pray.
Thank you. I will now introduce, everyone can have a seat, I'm sorry. I will now introduce to you Ellsworth Tony. This ceremony is very special to him. One mission, support who lost a veteran suicide. Experience that comes to knowing someone who and at first, as a first responder, we devastate that suicide leaves to the families and to the friends. I remember my lieutenant, he was in charge of the Criminal Investigation Bureau. When I retired, like in 2013, I got a call from Frances Bennett. She's one of the helpers. She retired here too, from died by suicide. We couldn't understand. His whole family, they were called the Lattimores, mayors, they were council persons, they were directors of police departments, they were chief of police departments, and he was the lieutenant in charge of the commanding. He was ready to retire in less than a month. He had just, and then next thing you know, he committed suicide. We don't know why. And that's the question that they leave behind, is the whys. So he left a lot of people wondering what it is that happened. How can we have seen this? happening to you. So my husband, he always takes veteran suicide personally. I could hear him on the phone talking to strangers, moments where they feel there is no hope. And he'll sit there for hours, not even knowing who this person is. That's how I know he's very committed to veterans and veteran suicide. It doesn't matter how it takes, it doesn't matter. He listens. He continues to listen, and he don't care where they're from. He'll find somebody from that area to go and take care of this soldier, even look out for this soldier. So it doesn't matter where it's at. I was with him and former Post Commander Bill and Rosemary. They passed away about a year ago. And we would stand on Bayshore Boulevard with our signs we made. Veterans' lives in Tampa matter. Beep your horn. People used to beep their horn because it's very important to us. And it was very important to my husband when he retired. And he says, you know what? If you're a veteran, believe me, he'll go all out his way. Or you're a veteran and he'll go all out of his way for you. He really cares about our veterans, and he really cares about suicide and our veterans. And he created this program for post-suicide to try to get them before they commit suicide. And then after, the families that are left behind and friends that are left behind, he also has a program. With no further ado, I'd like to introduce the president, CEO, Veterans Council and Veterans, but most importantly, wonderful caring husband, Tony Ellsworth Williams.
Thanks, Tony, for those kind words that I wrote. I'm just kidding. I really appreciate it. First of all, for everyone who took the time to come out on Saturday and for this memorial, I want to first give you guys a round of applause. Please give yourself a round of applause. Because I know, with Memorial Day and everybody's focused on Memorial Day, that everybody get very confusing, but I really appreciate you out here. And I'll also introduce some people who are here for this event as well. So, hands, how many people here have known someone who has died by suicide? Raise your hand. Yeah. See, that's why we're here. You're the reason why we are doing this, because there are a lot of families out there left behind who feel like they're by themselves after their loved one who was a veteran or even military died by suicide, and there's no one there. And that's why we need to have this and more of this, because we have to let them know that you care too, and the memory of your service members matter too. They matter too. So I want you to know that as well. It's very important to me, to us. So first, Veterans Council Veterans, we have done this, just like our 7th ceremony to recognize veterans, the fallen veterans who have died by suicide. The first one was actually by American Legion Post. I'll talk about later on when we first did it on Boulevard with Bill. And like I said, and some get about the family. We get so focused on the veteran left behind. If you're in active duty, and we all know if you're active duty and the veteran dies, you're kind of like exiled. You get a certain amount of time to get off the base, and then that's it. And we have to spend more time on that. But also, I believe, and I do know that this is important, as my wife kind of mentioned, in suicide prevention, there are 3 parts, and one of you don't hear much about. One is the awareness, the second is the intervention, and the third one is the postvention. We're the postvention. And you need to, and I need you to go out there and advocate. One of my asks is to go out there and advocate for the postvention, because it's something that the VA doesn't do right now, because of course the service member is gone. But we need to advocate for postvention, because postvention is a prevention in itself. As we're sitting there live streaming on LinkedIn and Facebook Live, there are veterans out there who are thinking of taking their lives because they think it's the best for the family. They think that when I'm gone, the burden's gone. What I'm here to tell you, and you can hear from the people talking behind the Congresspeople and the mayor talking behind me, it's not better. It's not better at all. You just actually curse them for the rest of their lives because they're always going to ask themselves why and what could I have done? Why didn't I see that? So I'm telling you guys and ladies out there, it is not better for the parent if you're gone. And that's prevention by itself. I then want to take the time to thank our sponsors. That's very important. Without our sponsors, we would probably not be here. If we are here, probably eating pretzels and water. So first, I want to thank Project Vest Relief. Please, Larry Roberts. He's the chairman for the Suicide Prevention Committee specifically, and through him, through their donations, they help veterans, council veterans do what we try to do. So I want to thank you, Larry, for your support. Another sponsor, and it's been a strong sponsor for us, is 40 and 8. You guys heard, but they're kind of like an offshoot of American Legion with their 40 acres in the mule. They have provided donations to us as well. I'm actually a product of the health problems. They could not be here, so I'm representing the 40 and 8. And I want to thank them so much as well. Their donations are greatly appreciated. And finally, I can say that we have American Legion Post 5. American Legion Post 5, and it's the reason why I joined the Post, because they take care of the community. They care about the community. That's what I want to do when I got out of the military, take care of the veteran community. And Bill, the past commander, and his wife, Rosemary, were totally involved. And they passed last year, and what a sight I've heard when they both died. We really lost a lot. But thankfully, the Post 5s continued to support veterans, counseling veterans by, like the venue you see right here and some of the things, and then the things we're doing in the future. So I definitely have to recognize American Legion Post 5. And before I bring in my next guest, I also want to recognize the volunteers. The volunteers are absolutely important. It's kind of hard being a military person because, everybody's volunteering me. So, but that's not true. They take the time out to make sure that we do things, the chance that they're recognized. So I want to recognize James Bennett. He's a volunteer, came all the way from New Tampa. Francis, we call her Fran Bennett, and like my wife said, she actually retired sergeant out of Plainfield, domestic violence. She's a cook and serve, so she's out there. Thank you, Fran, for being here. Definitely an honor guard who's been out here. Thank you again, always supporting us, JR. So I also want to recognize Cody Palmer. He's been on all of our events to help in the sound, so I want to thank you publicly. I'm doing this early because by the time it gets late, everybody's out of here, so I want to make sure I get it out of the way. That's why I'm doing it. I want to thank, I'll tell you the guests. The guests are outstanding. Before I do that, though, I also want to thank Michael Dell, like my man. Okay. He's the one that was here with no problem yesterday at Moments Donuts. Helped put all these chairs and stuff together, and again, I want to thank him. He's always been here for veterans, council veterans, and for the veterans and the families. So Mike, raise your hand if I can see that, Mike. So I want to definitely recognize Mike for being here. Finally, I want to thank the guests here. You see, we have a good guest. These people are real. They're not dummy models, right? These are real people here who felt that this is very important to be here. So I want to thank Councilman Castor for being here. We get that federal voice we need when it comes to suicide and the stigma. So thank you, Councilman, for being here. I definitely want to thank the mayor. Oh my gosh, this is like the second thing the mayor has done for me, and I really appreciate what you've done, Mayor. So thanks for being here. I also want to thank Luis. Luis is, and if everybody knows, Luis has always been a strong supporter of Veterans Council, veterans and veterans. He's always here. So this is not the first time, he's been here a lot. So I want to definitely thank Luis Viera, my guest. Linda Pugsley. Yes, Linda Pugsley, who's been a strong supporter of Veterans Council, veterans, and her words, she understands you. I'm thankful, Linda. That was like my first ask was Linda for being here. And I want to thank Frank for having Colonel Eric Albertson. And that was really exciting to me because, it really brings in the active duty side where this is just as important to them as well, not just the veteran, but the active duty side. So I'm really excited that Chaplain Colonel Albertson from the Special Forces Command to be there as well, and he'll be followed by that. So I want to make sure, hopefully I did not forget anything. Thank Maxine Waters. Dub it out, but Maxine Reyes, I want to thank Maxine for, as you've seen, Ray, she's a great talent. She has another song for us as well. And I don't know if your family's here, Maxine. Good. So we have Lloyd out here and Eunice. They're the Reeds. So thank you for being here for the family. So I really appreciate it. So thank you, Maxine, for being here. We have another song section for you later on. So hopefully I've not forgotten. And then the reason why we're here is Myrtice. And and I tell you that she's my rock. And I always like, 'cause she knows how to put the words and really make you understand. She really does. She's been a supporter of Veterans Counseling for several years now. And I reached out to Myrtice and said, Myrtice, can you do this? And I knew it was like, and God was in this, man. I'm telling you, from my wife to Myrtice, I'm telling you, this is all God. So I want to appreciate that, Myrtice, for being here. And you are the reason why we're here. And we're really looking forward to what you have to say to the people here. So before I go further ado, I want to introduce the representative from Post 5. Veterans Council Veteran is doing a lot more than this. And so our next event is going to be, this our third annual event. It's called the Veterans and Families, Faith-Based Veteran and the Community Summit. It's our third annual summit. And I put all three because you need all three if you really want to be effective when it comes to suicide prevention and post-prevention. So that'll be in the third or fourth week of September. It's like, so it's nowhere near our anniversary. Can't be anywhere near the anniversary. It's September 4th. So that'll be that. You'll hear more about that. We're looking for sponsors, the venues. With this time with the COVID and stuff, it's really difficult to get them safe. So please, if you want to help out or whatever, let me know, because that's our next event. And normally it's a big event where we have the panel thing. Veterans and Families, Suicide Prevention Summit, Faith-Based Veterans. Okay, so to know where First 5, our original commander, Gerard, was ill and sick. He just got out of the hospital on Wednesday. He wanted to be here, but he could not. And so I always want Post 5 to be recognized and give the word. So I'll be followed by JR. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. And I want to welcome all of you here today. We appreciate, as the American Legion family, to be able to support veterans, counseling veterans. This organization has meant so much to this community, and means so much to this post, and it means so much to the veterans in this city and the entire area. I also want to thank all of our distinguished guests for coming out today. It says a lot about what Tony is doing in this city, that they would come out and support this group. Welcome once again to Live, and I hope you enjoy the program today. And I'll turn it back over to Thelma. Thank you.
I introduce to you Florida's Congresswoman, Castor. We have Castors in the house. Thank you for being here.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Councilman. It is so wonderful to be back in where we can all be together as we come out of the pandemic and be here for such a meaningful purpose as a memorial service. And Tony, Thelma, Myrtice, all of you, Veterans Council is a reflection of this patriotic community and the love we have for our service members and veterans. And Jerry, you are right. This really, the fact that Mayor Jane Castor is here, Tampa Councilman Viera, who has a special heart for veterans, State Representative Fentress Driscoll, Fentress, stand up, thank you to be here. I hope this demonstrates to you and to the families who are here and the veterans who are counseling veterans every day how much we care, love, and support each and every one of you. Gold Star families, the veterans who are there, our wonderful chaplains who serve day in and day out. I started the week at Arlington National Cemetery at the Women's Veterans Memorial, where we recognize young female service members from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard who have just really started their careers there in a salute to women who have given the ultimate sacrifice. And I want to make a note for female veterans. We are now collecting your stories in concert with the memorial, Women's Veterans Memorial in Arlington. So we'll have more information. I'd like to ask your help to spread the word on that going forward. But what a blessing that we can come together as we come out of the pandemic. It has not been easy, but it's never a cakewalk for our service members. The VA says that 1 in 5 military members who serve in combat return with a mental health issue. So we've done good bipartisan work in Congress over the past decade to get the resources down to the local level. But there is no substitute for veterans taking care of their brothers and sisters. They have a special relationship, respect, and knowledge. And Michael Dell can tell you this. Michael, thank you for everything that you have done with Hillsborough County Veterans Council. We need to let our families know that these supports are there. In this patriotic community, there shouldn't be any service member or veteran that doesn't get the extra attention and support that they have earned and they just deserve. We recognize that as well and Tony mentioned this, in what we were able to do in expanding the access to the COVID-19 vaccine. When it was just available to service members, that didn't make sense not to have it for families and their sons and daughters. So I think that was critical to helping this community that is veteran rich bounce back and come out of COVID-19. And if anyone you know is still struggling with, should I get the vaccine or where do I get it, please let us know. We've also, through the American Rescue Plan and the CARES Act, sent additional dollars to help veterans with work, retraining, mental health resources, to help reduce the bulk and waive co-pays that they need for their healthcare services, which includes the mental health care services. All of this in recognition of the fantastic one of you, and we just cannot fathom that there would be any service member who would feel so desperate and alone that they would take their own life by suicide. We're not going to allow it to happen ever again, thanks to the work of Tony, Veterans Counseling Veterans, and this very patriotic. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Castor. Our next guest speaker is the Mayor of Tampa, Jane Castor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony and Thelma, for all that you do, and Myrtice and everyone that is helping in this so important issue of veteran suicide. We are a military town here in Tampa. It's part of our fabric. It's part of our identity. And we are so very blessed to have Congresswoman Kathy Castor to support our community on the federal level, not only in just a myriad of ways, but most importantly, our military, supporting military, doing what it takes to give the tools, the necessary funding and tools to our military, and the focus on MacDill and all important focus on keeping our veterans safe physically and mentally. And also to our state representative, Fentress Driscoll. She has been an incredible supporter for our community as well, more supportive of our military than Louis Viera. He is there at every event that I'm at and many that I can't make as well. And he is a supporter of our Gold Star families. So I thank each of you for your service, and clearly to the military, thank you for what you do each and every day and have done. This is a really important issue. Estimated that over 15 veterans a day take their own lives. And I know a little bit about this. I can't say that I was ever in the military, but having been in law enforcement for 30 years, I know that on hand than they do on duty. And as Tony said before, you don't know, you know, if you're left behind, you don't know the reasons that that decision was made. So we have to approach this from a standpoint, everyone being there for our veterans, for our law enforcement, because if you haven't been in the military, you haven't been in law enforcement, you don't know the things that our service members go through. I often say that being a police officer, you get to see and do things that nobody else gets to see and do, but you have to see and do things that nobody should have to see or do. And when Tony asked for everyone to raise their hand if they had known someone who had taken their own life, I'm not sure that there wasn't a hand raised either here or virtually with those that are watching from their own home. I remember a story from the Tampa Police Department. I received a text that one of our officers had taken their own life. And at first I didn't even recognize the name. And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning that it was my friend, Big Jake. And that's the nickname that everybody knew him by, Big Jake. Big Jake was the life of the party. He was the guy that everybody knew, not just because he was 6'6", but because he entered the room and just took up all the air in the room. He was the guy that never met a stranger. He had 2 young kids. He had the perfect life. So why did he make that split-second decision? That's the question that we may not be able to answer, but what we can do is make sure that we are listening and that we are attentive to our veterans, to our military members, to our law enforcement officers that are out there serving our community and our country day in and day out. Because it may be that one indication, that one clue, that one shoulder that someone can cry on, or that one person that they can talk to that will hear their struggle. And so I can't tell you how proud I am of what Tony and the Veterans Counseling Veterans have done and will continue to do to ensure that our veterans have what they need in their community. And it is my hope that the Veterans Counseling Veterans continues to grow as an organization as we try to end this senseless loss of those individuals that have served our country and served us, each and every one of us, so well. We do a great deal at the police department and within the city of Tampa to help out with our military. We have a military affairs officer. We also have homeless liaisons. We all know that homelessness is a big issue within our veteran community. We also are starting a new mental health program that we will have counselors out that will respond with police officers to help individuals deal with the issues that they are facing. And a lot of those individuals that they will be helping will be veterans. I implemented a counseling program that frankly was modeled on the military. And it's a week-long program where a retreat where officers go and they can all have those conversations. I know it's probably the same for military as it is for police officers. When we lose officers in the line of duty, when we lose young people, when we lose anybody to senseless violence, there's always that question of why could I not have stopped this? You know, that's my job. My job as an officer was to fix things, and you weren't able to fix these particular incidents. So you see that as a personal failure. And when we bring everyone together, you get to have those frank conversations where, no, you didn't fail in this instance. You know, you've helped so much, so many other people, and here is the counseling that you need. Here's the services that you need, and here are other stories that you need to hear to understand that you are not alone. So thank you to everyone that participates in the counseling, Veterans Counseling Veterans. It's also important that you hear that voice that has been there, has done that, and has seen the same things that you have. For me to counsel a veteran may be ineffective. For a veteran to talk to another veteran, that has an impact, that voice. has an impact and will resonate with them. So again, I hope the group grows to the point that there is no need. I don't know that that's going to happen, but at least to the point where we don't have veterans choosing to take their own lives. Because the bottom line, I was reminded in the Pledge of Allegiance, we are the land of the free because of those brave men and women that take the oath to serve our community and to serve our country. May God bless America, God bless our veterans, and God bless all of the families who have lost a veteran. Thank you.
Our next guest speaker is Chaplain Linda Pudsley. She's been around with us for years. We really appreciate you always supporting veterans, counseling veterans. Thank you, Linda. Let's give her a hand.
At my age, I love it when people say, you've been here for years. Thank you for that reminder. I used to say that I wish that we were here for a happier event, but I'm changing that perspective. We're not here to rejoice. We are here to remember. And because some of our veterans have taken a last action that has really impacted so many in our friends and family, it doesn't negate all of the positive, wonderful, great, brave things that they did. So, as I said, we're not here to rejoice. We are here to remember and to honor. I wish that somehow, though, that we could rewind the clock and have all that's happened to disappear, but we can't. Facing the future as whole and healthy as possible is what we have to do. What we have to wish for now, but what we have to do. And we truly have to do it in order to sincerely honor those who have died. Someone dies of combat wounds, then you're a hero. But we have the battle of life going on. And our veterans that have participated in combat, our veterans who have been involved in many serious things, and their commitment to what some of the harder things of life are, we get wounded too. But those wounds aren't seen. They are inside. Outside wounds are ones that you can see, you can identify, you can rush to, and you can tend to. I know I was a nurse with 2 tours in Vietnam. Things I saw, things that I did, have affected me all of my life. That's my inside wounds. But I fixed the outside wounds so they wouldn't bleed out, so they could live. But there were times, no matter what we did, and I still carry that burden sometimes, they didn't live, they died. But there are many who go through combat and the combat of life that have those internal wounds that no one sees. They bleed out. So we're here today to talk about how can we recover, how can we be restored after knowing them, loving them, caring for them, being with them. How do we get there to that healthy, higher aspect? How do we face that future as whole as possible? Things with very often traumatic event of a loved one suicide, even more tragedy after that piles on. It really, really is tough. Sometimes families disintegrate. People are often, they're unable to deal with the intense grief and the painful, often unanswerable question, why? It's not just the immediate family that's affected, it's the co-workers, classmates, clubs. Waves of emotion often derail our own healing. Life just seems to stop for us, and we experience anger and guilt, fear, sometimes even relief, knowing that their suffering's over. So it's all compounded in here, and it can be very confusing. But we're not alone. I've given these examples before. I mean, Rick Warren was a famous Christian pastor, and his son died by suicide. Robin Williams, recently, a few years ago, famous comedian, he died by suicide. Aaron Hernandez, I'm from Boston area, so once in a while I'll go into my regular language, so forgive me. But Aaron Hernandez, he was a famous football player, and he died by suicide in his jail cell. He was dealing with things that were overwhelming and overcoming to him. Two of my classmates from nursing school died by suicide with drug overdoses. I knew the two of them and knew them well. And they were some of the most famous in our class because they were young and beautiful. The interns were them. You think that they had everything in life. What happened? Now, I learned of their death while I was in Vietnam, so it took about a month to catch up with me because I'm flying all over Vietnam to even find out. So, I mean, I really had to deal with some grief, and I couldn't even get a hold of anyone, contact anyone. It was over and done there in Vietnam. While working as a chaplain with the Florida Army National Guard, one of my soldiers died by suicide. One of the wives of one of my soldiers died by suicide. I can remember going up to the casket, and I just looked at him and I said, Hernandez, why didn't you talk to me? This is real. We do are affected by it. All the things that we've talked about today, it is so, so powerful. Recently, I was called to counsel with an Air Force auxiliary unit where one of the cadets had just died by suicide. His girlfriend broke up with him. He went over to her front lawn, blew his head out with a brain, blew his brains out with a gun. I mean, paying a mortgage payment. I mean, what is going on? There's more than just one thing that happened. Something has compounded where you just do not have the ability, that one thing, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's so much more than what we have seen. And those that die by suicide as veterans, they are compounded. If they're involved in combat, they're involved in some very complicated and difficult activities, but they also have had previous wounds too. It is the straw that broke the camel's back. But this is a different kind of grief. It's not just the death of a loved one. It's dealing with suicide. Often the term is used, committed suicide, like it was a crime. Oh, you commit a crime. You die by suicide. And I hope we all change that language and commit anything. There was a depth there of wounds that we did not see. And what they did was, no matter what we did, just like when I was in Vietnam, no matter what we did, they still bled out. People often don't know how to react to us and to comfort us and to comfort our families. For those outside looking in, they have no clue what to do or what to say. If someone dies of a heart attack, it seems like it's a routine. You just go up and you love the family and you care for them. Someone dies by suicide, it's like, oh, we end up carrying a stigma. Wow, we need to change that. And we change that with love and care and all the things, and a few more things that I'll discuss. In addition to the grief, there's the second guessing that goes on from the surviving family and friends. The what ifs. What if I had done that? What if I had Don't do that. This is bigger than all of us, and we need to help and support each other. There's additional things that go on with the surviving families, the funeral, the finances, the paperwork, insurance issues. I mean, this goes on, and it's on top of all of the feelings that we have. So I'm going to encourage us, talking about what has happened is a vital process in that healing process. It's a vital component of this. Talking about it, getting together, getting in groups, You can survive the survival of a loved one. It's a long and painful journey, but it can be done. I'm going to give you a few suggestions. Stay connected with other family members. So many times people get isolated. Do not do that. The last thing you need to be is alone. Give children special attention because they often have a more difficult time with the intense emotions that they're feeling. Remind them it is very normal to have grief, and above all, that you still love them. Holidays are tough, so be aware. Be aware. If you know anyone, you're gonna know they're gonna have a little hard time in the holidays. Be available, be aware. It takes time to survive. You may not think that you will after this has happened, but you will. And if you have a spiritual base, that's where my wounds have healed. The scars are still there to remind us, but the wound is healed. Those that are still bleeding from their wounds still have major problems. But if you have a get through, getting past your feelings is important, but it doesn't mean you don't have those feelings. It doesn't mean that you forget. Understand that your intense emotions are a perfectly normal reaction to grief. You have to take it one day at a time. Don't be around people who tell you how to feel. Only you know how to feel, and you're going to progress at your own pace. Expect some setbacks. Some days are diamonds and some days are stone. Put off any major decisions, especially if it's fairly close to when this has happened. In the immediate aftermath of a suicide, it is not the time to make important life decisions. You're just overwhelmed. You cannot see things. When you need to talk, call someone. And if someone calls a good listener, they need that listening ear at that point. Learn how to say no, though. You need to set limits for yourself. Sometimes you can dive into everything, community work and all this stuff, and all you're doing is fooling yourself. You're putting off the pain. You're putting away your grief. If you don't, so be really careful. Know when to say no. You have to give your family and yourself some time. Be patient with yourself and others. Accept that you'll never be the same again. That's absolutely true, but that doesn't mean that you'll never enjoy life again. You can, and you will. You'll eventually begin to feel something again, whether through the passing of time or prayer or helping others or finding a new purpose in life. You will feel again. Life will come back, just like when the guys would come in and they had a lot of blood loss, they had 2 or 3 limbs that were cut off or whatever. At a certain point, we'd give them IVs, we'd give them blood, we'd stop the bleeding, we'd help their breathing, all this stuff. They would feel alive instead of that crazy little dark place that they were in. They would feel alive. The same thing can happen to us. You can have an IV, so to speak, of compassionate people and talking and healing and taking time. Love is a powerful healer. Express your love for the loved one that you lost to suicide. Keep those pictures out. Look at them. Honor them on their birthday and special days to them. And do that. Express that love for yourself and those that are still around you because they need you now more than ever. And the most important things you can do, I'm going to say this, grief counseling and pastoral care in some format. And I tell you, Tony has really set up an awful lot of help areas. His heart is in this, and I tell this to our chaplains. I'm involved in teaching chaplains in disaster ministry, and I tell them, listen, your head can be full of knowledge, your hands can be full of skills, but if your heart isn't fully involved in this, it's just not going to work. So keep those things in mind and get involved with some counseling and some groups. And if you can, consider joining a support group. Others who have experienced this are your best contacts and counseling and your best shoulder to cry on. In finishing, I just want to tell you that you are strong. You are not at fault. Tattoo that on your arm if you have to. You are not at fault for what happened through this. Stay in touch with each other, stay in touch with God, and be mightily blessed on your healing journey. God is with you.
And a quick side note, I want to make sure I didn't miss everybody. I just noticed. I want to also recognize one of our board members, a great friend of mine, Dr. Carlos Garcia. Thank you, sir, for being here. I want to make sure I mention that. And I also want to mention that Florida Representative Frentress Driscoll. I met her last Friday, and I'm glad you can make it here as well because you represent a big area there in the northern part. So thank you, ma'am, for being here as well. I want to make sure that now we get back on track. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I mention that before that goes past.
Our next guest speaker is Luis Viera. Luis is a strong supporter for Veterans Council and Veterans for a while. Thank you, Luis, for being here.
Thank you very much. It's a real honor to be here. I'm so glad to be here with so many great people. Congresswoman Castor, who's such a great champion for our veterans. Mayor Castor, who speaks from the heart on so many issues today. And following Chaplain Pugsley is a real endeavor. That woman, she is Boston strong, she is Irish American strong, and she's a good lady. I love her to death. And also my good friend, Driscoll, who's here, who's such a good woman. I always joke about Representative Driscoll that she's always jealous of me because I went to USF and she went to Harvard, but she's a good woman, and it's great to have her here today. This is such an important event here today. We're honoring something that brings us together as Americans. We hear so much about the things that divide us as Americans. But there's so much that brings us together as Americans. It doesn't have anything to do with who you voted in or what political party you belong to, or whether you're a Methodist or a Catholic or Jewish or Muslim or a Cardinal or anything. This is about American honor. I think about two people here, we're finding on God's earth. Craig, who's here, and I on politics. We don't agree on a orange. Years later, from an emotional condition related to that service. That's God's truth. I remember one of the lines that always stands out to me is something that Theodore Roosevelt wrote about 15 years before he became president. On the same night, his mother had died long
Hello, guys. We just ended the ceremony. I wanted to make sure that you got a chance to see this event. Please share this event as well, because this is important that we share this and we have all the communities do this, not just veterans, council veterans, for those who stand by. So share it. If you get a chance to see it later on, I'll continue to share it. So this is Veteran Council Veterans ending the broadcast. Have a great weekend.